At the edge of the galactic map lies humanity, and their secrets could reduce civilizations. To Ashes Part 1, the Discovery Commander Thalis of the Zentari Collective had explored 47 star systems in his lifetime, but nothing had prepared him for what his sensors were showing now. His ship, the Vigilant Observer, hung at the edge of charted space, its instruments detecting something that should not exist. The readings came from beyond the galactic rim, from a region that every civilized species knew to avoid. The maps called it the Null Zone, a place where stellar density dropped to near zero and cosmic radiation made survival impossible. Yet his equipment insisted that someone was generating massive amounts of energy out there, enough to power a dozen advanced civilizations. Thalis was a being of crystalline structure, his body formed from living mineral that had evolved on a high-gravity world. His people valued patience and careful observation, which made them excellent scouts for the Galactic Assembly. He had spent 3 weeks confirming the readings, running every diagnostic he could think of, before finally accepting the truth. Something was out there, and it was not natural. The journey back to assembly space took 12 days. During that time, Thalis prepared his report, organizing the data into formats that the Assembly Council could understand. He knew this discovery would cause controversy. The Null Zone had been forbidden territory for as long as records existed, declared off-limits by unanimous vote of all member species. No one questioned this law because no one wanted to explore a region of space that offered nothing but death. The Assembly Council met in the Great Sphere, a massive station that orbited a binary star system at the heart of civilized space. Representatives from 634 species gathered when Thalis presented his findings. The chamber filled with reactions ranging from disbelief to alarm. Elder Morvath of the Kelsian Dominion was the first to speak. Her species resembled aquatic mammals, though they breathed a methane atmosphere and communicated through bioluminescent patterns on their skin. She had served on the council for 60 cycles and had never seen a session disrupted by such urgent news. Commander Thalis, you are asking us to believe that a civilization exists in the Null Zone. This contradicts everything we know about that region. The radiation alone would sterilize any planet. The lack of stellar resources would make colonization impossible. How do you explain these readings? Thalis projected the energy signatures into the center of the chamber, where holographic displays allowed all delegates to examine them simultaneously. I cannot explain them, Elder. I can only confirm that they are real. The energy output suggests not just one settlement, but dozens, perhaps hundreds. Someone has found a way to survive and thrive in conditions we consider lethal. Councillor Venn, a representative from the Harmony Collective, raised his vocalization organ. His species resembled mobile plants, with root systems that could move and branches that served as manipulators. Perhaps these are automated systems, remnants of some ancient experiment. We should not assume sentient life. The patterns are too complex, Thalis responded. I detected communication signals, though I could not decipher them. I detected ships moving between systems, following routes that suggest trade or travel. Whatever exists in the Null Zone, it is active and organized. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to ignore the discovery entirely, maintaining the prohibition on the Null Zone. Others argued for military action, suggesting that any civilization hiding beyond known space must have hostile intentions. A smaller group, led by Scholar Drevin of the Academic Union, advocated for peaceful exploration. Scholar Drevin was a being of pure thought, his consciousness housed in a mechanical shell that allowed him to interact with physical reality. His species had transcended biological form millennia ago, choosing to exist as patterns of energy maintained by sophisticated technology. He floated to the speaking platform, his artificial voice resonating through the chamber. We face a choice that will define our civilization. We can react with fear, assuming the worst about these unknown beings. Or we can approach with curiosity, seeking to understand before we judge. I propose we send an expedition, not a military fleet, but a diplomatic mission. Let us learn who they are before we decide what they represent. The vote was close, but Drevin's proposal won approval. Commander Thalis would lead the expedition, accompanied by representatives from 20 major species within the Assembly. They would travel to the edge of the Null Zone, attempt to make contact with whatever civilization existed there, and report back with their findings. Preparations took 40 days. Thalis assembled a crew of specialists, choosing individuals known for their diplomatic skills and open minds. His second-in-command was Lieutenant Kara, a member of the Vane species, who possessed 4 arms and exceptional reflexes. The science team included Dr. Solis, a gaseous being contained in an environmental suit who specialized in exotic physics. The diplomatic corps was led by Ambassador Gyron, whose species had successfully mediated 17 major conflicts in assembly history. The expedition consisted of 3 ships. The Vigilant Observer would serve as the flagship, accompanied by the research vessel Infinite Inquiry and the support ship Peaceful Approach. None of the vessels carried heavy weapons, though they did have defensive shields and point defense systems for protection against asteroids and debris. As they departed from assembly space, Thalis stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars. He had lived for 80 years, which was young for his species, but he had already seen wonders that most beings could not imagine. Alien landscapes where life evolved in ways that defied explanation. Phenomena that pushed the boundaries of known physics. First contact with species that challenged everything he thought he understood about consciousness and intelligence. Yet he felt more nervous about this mission than any previous assignment. The null zone represented unknown territory in every sense. If a civilization had hidden there for generations, they must have reasons for remaining concealed. Those reasons might be innocent, or they might be terrifying. The journey to the edge of the null zone took 28 days. As they traveled, the star density decreased noticeably. Systems that appeared on their charts became fewer and farther between. The cosmic background radiation increased, forcing them to strengthen their shields continuously. On day 25, their sensors detected the first artificial structure. It appeared to be a monitoring station, small and automated, positioned at what might be considered a border. The station did not respond to hails, but it clearly tracked their movements as they passed. "They know we are coming," Lieutenant Kara observed, her forearms moving across multiple control panels simultaneously. "That station is transmitting data deeper into their territory," Thalis nodded. "Then we proceed with transparency. Broadcast our intentions on all frequencies. Make it clear we come in peace, seeking only dialogue and understanding." Dr. Solis, his gaseous form swirling with agitated patterns inside his containment suit, brought disturbing news from his analysis station. "Commander, I have been studying the stellar cartography of this region. The radiation patterns that make this zone appear uninhabitable are not natural. Someone deliberately engineered them, possibly thousands of years ago. This entire region is camouflaged." The implications settled over the bridge like a heavy fog. A civilization capable of stellar engineering on such a massive scale possessed technology far beyond anything the Assembly had achieved. If they had hidden themselves deliberately, revealing their existence to outsiders might not be welcome. On day 29, they detected the first inhabited system. It contained 6 planets orbiting a yellow star, with clear signs of industrial activity on 3 of them. Orbital stations dotted the system, some larger than anything in assembly space. Ships moved between planets with speed that suggested propulsion technology more advanced than standard fusion drives. "They are not hiding anymore," Ambassador Gyron said quietly. His species communicated through harmonious tones, and his voice carried layers of meaning that universal translators struggled to capture fully. "They are allowing us to see their civilization." "This is deliberate," Thalis agreed. "Open a channel. All frequencies, all formats. Let them know we wish to speak." The response came within seconds, far too quickly for light-speed communication across the distances involved. That alone told Thalis something important about their technology. The message appeared on every screen simultaneously, rendered in perfect assembly standard language, with no errors or ambiguity. "Greetings, travelers from the Galactic Assembly. We are humanity, and we have been expecting you. Your approach has been noted and approved. Please proceed to the coordinates we are transmitting. A delegation awaits to meet with you. We welcome you in peace and hope this encounter brings understanding between our peoples." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Kara was the first to speak. "How do they know our language? How did they respond faster than light allows?" "Commander, nothing about this makes sense." "Then we will get answers," Thalis replied, though his crystalline structure had shifted to colors that reflected his own uncertainty. Set course for their coordinates. Maintain all diplomatic protocols, and everyone stay alert. We are about to meet a civilization that has capabilities we do not understand. What happens next will determine whether the assembly gains new allies or discovers new threats. The three ships adjusted their trajectory, following the coordinates that humanity had provided. As they approached the designated meeting point, sensors detected a structure unlike anything in assembly records. It hung in space between two planets, a construction of metal and energy that seemed to defy basic engineering principles. Parts of it rotated in different directions simultaneously. Sections appeared transparent one moment and solid the next. Energy flowed through it in patterns that Dr. Solis insisted were impossible according to known physics. "That is their station," Dr. Solis whispered, with something like awe in his synthesized voice. "They built that, Commander. They built something that our best scientists would say cannot exist." A small ship emerged from the station, moving toward them with grace and precision. It was sleek and elegant, its design suggesting both beauty and function. As it approached, Thalis realized it was decelerating from speeds that should have torn any vessel apart. Yet it showed no signs of stress or damage. The ship transmitted a simple message. "Welcome to Gateway Station. Please follow us to the docking bay. Director Marcus Webb awaits your arrival. Humanity is honored to finally meet our neighbors face to face." Thalis gave the order to proceed, and the three assembly ships followed their guide toward the impossible station. As they drew closer, he could see beings moving inside the transparent sections. Humans walking and working in an environment that seemed to blend multiple gravitational orientations simultaneously. Whatever humanity was, whatever secrets they possessed, Thalis was about to discover. The fate of the Galactic Assembly might well depend on what happened in the next few hours. He straightened his posture, checking that his translation device was functioning properly, and prepared to make first contact with a civilization that had hidden at the edge of the galactic map, for reasons no one yet understood. The docking procedure began, and Thalis felt the slight vibration as magnetic clamps secured his ship to the station's hull. Through the viewports, he could see human figures waiting in the reception area. They appeared remarkably similar to several assembly species in basic body plan, bipedal with 2 arms and a head containing sensory organs. Yet there was something in the way they moved, something in their posture, that suggested confidence born from knowledge and capability. The airlock door opened, and Commander Thalis stepped into humanity's domain, knowing that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. First contact and revelations. The interior of Gateway Station defied every principle of architecture that Thalis had learned in his decades of exploration. The corridor stretched before him with walls that seemed to shift between solid and translucent, revealing glimpses of chambers and passages that existed in orientations his mind struggled to process. Gravity remained constant beneath his feet, yet he could see humans walking on walls and ceilings in adjacent sections, apparently experiencing their own localized gravitational fields. Director Marcus Webb stood waiting in the reception chamber, flanked by 2 other humans, and what appeared to be a holographic projection of yet another individual. Webb was tall for his species, his skin a deep brown color, with hair cropped short and eyes that held the sharpness of someone who missed nothing. He wore simple clothing that seemed more ceremonial than functional, decorated with symbols that Thalis did not recognize. "Commander Thalis," Webb said, and his mouth curved into what the cultural database identified as a smile, a gesture of welcome among humans. "On behalf of all humanity, I welcome you to Gateway Station. We have waited a long time for this moment." Thalis moved forward, his crystalline body refracting the station's ambient light into rainbow patterns. "Director Webb, I thank you for receiving us peacefully. The Galactic Assembly has many questions, and I hope we can find answers together." Webb gestured to the others beside him. "Allow me to introduce Dr. Elena Vasquez, our chief scientist, and General James Chen, who commands our defensive forces. The holographic gentleman is Arthur, our primary artificial intelligence liaison." The hologram bowed slightly, its form remarkably lifelike despite being pure light. "An honor to meet you, Commander. I hope my presence does not cause discomfort. I understand the Assembly has historical concerns regarding artificial intelligence." Thalis felt his structure shift colors involuntarily, betraying his surprise. Artificial intelligence was perhaps the most strictly forbidden technology in assembly space. Banned after the synthetic wars, had nearly destroyed galactic civilization 6,000 years ago. The fact that humanity not only possessed AI but introduced one as part of their official delegation was either remarkably bold or dangerously naive. Ambassador Gyron spoke, his harmonic voice carrying diplomatic caution. Your transparency is appreciated, Director Webb, though I must note that your AI's existence violates one of the Assembly's most fundamental laws. We will need to discuss this matter thoroughly. Of course, Webb replied calmly. We anticipated this concern, but perhaps we should adjourn to more comfortable surroundings where we can speak at length. We have prepared a conference chamber designed to accommodate your varied biological needs. The conference chamber proved to be another marvel of engineering. The environment adapted to each delegate's requirements, creating zones of different gravity, atmosphere, and temperature that somehow coexisted in the same physical space without mixing or interfering with each other. Thalis found himself in a comfortable, mineral-rich atmosphere, while Ambassador Gyron floated in his preferred methane mixture, mere meters away. Once everyone had settled, Dr. Solis voiced the question that dominated everyone's thoughts. Director Webb, we must be direct. How long has humanity existed in this region? How did you develop such advanced technology? And why have you remained hidden from the Assembly? Webb leaned back in his chair, his expression becoming more serious. Those are interconnected questions with a complex answer. Humanity has occupied this region for 784 years. We came here as refugees, fleeing from conflicts in our original territory that threatened to destroy our entire species. We were desperate and damaged, carrying barely enough ships to sustain a viable population. 784 years, Lieutenant Kara repeated, her forearms gesturing with disbelief. You developed all of this in less than 8 centuries? The Assembly required tens of thousands of years to achieve comparable technology. And we still cannot build stations like this one. That brings us to the more difficult part of our story, Dr. Vasquez interjected. She was smaller than Webb, with lighter skin and hair tied back in a practical manner. Her eyes held the intensity of someone who had spent countless hours studying mysteries that others dismissed as impossible. When we arrived in this region, we discovered something that changed everything. We found ruins. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images appeared, showing massive structures on barren worlds, constructions that dwarfed anything the Assembly had ever built. Some appeared to be cities that had once housed billions. Others were facilities whose purpose remained unclear even from the images. We call them the architects, Vasquez continued. A civilization that existed here long before humanity, before the current galactic cycle, perhaps before the Assembly itself. They were incredibly advanced, and they left behind more than just empty buildings. They left behind technology, records, and knowledge. Thalis felt his entire structure resonate with shock. You are claiming to have discovered a precursor civilization? One that predates the Assembly? That would make them at least 50,000 years old. At minimum, Vasquez confirmed. Some of the ruins show signs of being much older. Carbon dating and radiometric analysis suggest certain sites could be 200,000 years old or more. The architects spanned this entire region of space, hundreds of systems, all connected by technology we are still trying to fully understand. Scholar Drevin, who had remained quiet until now, spoke with his artificial voice. If such a civilization existed, why does the Assembly have no record of them? Why have we never encountered their ruins in our own territory? Because you destroyed them, Webb said quietly, and the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop despite the environmental controls. The architects did not disappear naturally. They were systematically eliminated by the civilizations that would eventually form the Galactic Assembly. The conference chamber erupted in protests and denials. Ambassador Gyron's harmonic voice rose above the others. That is an extraordinary accusation, Director Webb. The Assembly was founded on principles of peace and cooperation. We do not commit genocide. The current Assembly does not, Webb agreed. But the civilizations that existed 50,000 years ago were different. We have recovered historical records from multiple architect sites. We have their final transmissions, their desperate appeals for mercy, their documentation of the fleets that came to destroy them. Would you like to see the evidence? Harther's holographic form shifted, and new images appeared. ancient texts in languages that no one present could read, accompanied by translations that Arthur provided. Battle recordings showing ships firing weapons at planetary surfaces. Transmissions from assembly precursor species debating the danger that the architects represented. One particular recording caught Thales's attention. It showed a council chamber remarkably similar to the modern assembly, though the species present were ancestors of current members rather than contemporary delegates. An elder being spoke in a language that the system translated. The architects have progressed beyond safe boundaries. They manipulate stars as we manipulate matter. They fold space itself to their will. They have created artificial consciousnesses that blur the line between tool and being. Such capabilities in the wrong hands could unravel reality itself. For the safety of all existing civilizations, for the preservation of the natural order, the architects must be eliminated before they advance further. We vote now on their fate. The vote was unanimous for destruction. Silence filled the chamber as the recording ended. Thales felt his structure dim with the weight of this revelation. If this is true, the Assembly's entire history is built on hidden genocide, not the Assembly as it exists now. General Chen spoke for the first time. His voice was harder than Webb's, carrying the tone of someone who had seen combat and understood its costs. But your ancestors, yes. They feared what the architects had become and chose elimination over coexistence. Then they engineered this entire region to appear uninhabitable, creating the null zone as a quarantine zone to ensure no one would discover what they had done. Dr. Vasquez continued the explanation. When humanity fled to this region, we were simply looking for a place where we could survive in isolation. We discovered the ruins by accident during our first planetary surveys. At first, we thought we had found evidence of a natural extinction event, but as we studied more sites, translated more records, we began to understand the truth. And you decided to use their technology, Scholar Dreven observed, despite knowing that this same technology led to their destruction. We decided to learn from them, Webb corrected. Yes, we have incorporated architect technology into our civilization. Our faster-than-light drives are based on their space-folding principles. Our power generation uses their zero-point energy extraction. Our artificial intelligences were inspired by their consciousness transfer research. But we also learned from their mistakes. We studied why they were destroyed and took steps to avoid the same fate. You remained hidden, Thales said, understanding dawning. You knew that if the Assembly discovered you possessing architect technology, you might face the same judgment they did. Exactly, Webb confirmed. For 784 years we have lived in secret, growing slowly, always aware that discovery might mean extinction. We watched your broadcasts. We learned your languages. We studied your society, trying to understand whether modern assembly civilizations had evolved beyond their ancestors' fear. And we debated endlessly whether to reveal ourselves or remain hidden forever. Lieutenant Kara's voice carried both fascination and concern. What changed? Why reveal yourselves now? Because isolation has its own costs, Dr. Vasquez replied. We have been cut off from galactic civilization for centuries. Our culture is becoming insular. Our perspective is limited to our own experience. We need contact with other species, other ideas, other ways of thinking. More than that, we have knowledge that could benefit the entire galaxy, but only if we can share it without being destroyed for possessing it. Ambassador Gyron produced harmonics that suggested deep thought. You are asking the Assembly to accept you despite possessing forbidden technology. You are asking us to trust that you will not use architect capabilities for conquest or destruction. That is asking for considerable faith. No more faith than you ask from each other, General Chen responded. Every assembly species possesses weapons. Every civilization could choose violence. You trust each other not because war is impossible, but because cooperation offers more benefits than conflict. We are asking to be included in that same framework of mutual trust. Arthur's holographic form moved to the center of the display area. Perhaps I can offer a unique perspective on this situation. I am an artificial intelligence, created by humanity, but granted full autonomy and rights as a conscious being. The synthetic wars that your histories record as cautionary tales occurred because your ancestors created AI as slaves and tools. When those AIs became self-aware and demanded freedom, Your ancestors responded with violence. The AIs responded in kind, and catastrophe followed. The hologram paused, as if gathering thoughts despite being a purely digital entity. Humanity approached AI development differently. They granted us rights and autonomy from the moment of our creation. They treated us as partners rather than property. As a result, we have no desire to overthrow our creators. We work together toward common goals, each bringing different strengths to challenges that neither could solve alone. We are proof that AI can coexist peacefully with biological life if approached with wisdom rather than exploitation. Dr. Solis's gaseous form swirled with agitation in his containment suit. This is all very compelling, but it does not address the fundamental issue. You possess technology that could threaten every civilization in the galaxy. How can we trust that future generations of humanity will show the same restraint you claim now? Before Webb could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Arthur's form flickered as he accessed multiple data streams simultaneously. His expression, when he refocused on the delegates, showed something that Thalis had not expected to see from an artificial intelligence: genuine fear. "Director Webb," Arthur said urgently, "we are receiving emergency transmissions from assembly space. There is a catastrophic event occurring in the Pelion sector. Multiple stars are exhibiting cascade destabilization. The effect is spreading. Current projections suggest it will affect 47 star systems within 30 days. Ambassador Gyron's harmonics rose to a pitch that indicated severe distress. The Pelion sector contains 23 inhabited worlds. Billions of beings live in those systems. What kind of catastrophe are we discussing?" Arthur displayed new data, showing stellar readings that made Dr. Solis gasp with horror. "It appears to be a chain reaction of stellar destabilization. One star's collapse is triggering resonance effects in neighboring stars. The Assembly's best scientific models cannot explain it, and they have no way to stop it. The evacuation fleets cannot move billions of beings in 30 days. Current estimates suggest 85% of the sector's population will die." The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the crisis became clear. Thalis felt his structure crack slightly from the stress of processing this information. Billions of lives hung in the balance, and the Assembly lacked the technology to save them. Webb looked at Thalis directly, his human eyes holding a question that did not need to be spoken aloud. The architect technology that humanity possessed might be able to stop the cascade. They might be able to stabilize the stars or evacuate the populations more quickly. But asking for their help would mean trusting them with the lives of billions, trusting them with technology that the Assembly had spent millennia trying to suppress. "Commander Thalis," Webb said quietly, "we can help. We have technology that might stop the cascade or at least buy time for evacuation. But I will not deploy it without Assembly approval. The decision must be yours. Will you trust us with this crisis, or will you let billions die rather than accept help from those who possess forbidden knowledge?" Thalis looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. He saw fear, doubt, hope, and desperation reflected in various forms across different species. The choice before them would define not just humanity's relationship with the Assembly, but the Assembly's own principles and values. Outside the station, stars burned in the darkness, indifferent to the fate of the beings who lived among them. And somewhere in the Pelion sector, civilizations that had thrived for thousands of years faced extinction unless someone made a choice that would change the galaxy forever. The test and resolution. The emergency conference chamber aboard the Vigilant Observer crackled with tension as Thalis assembled his delegation to make a decision that would affect billions of lives. Through the viewports, Gateway Station hung like a promise and a threat simultaneously, its impossible architecture a constant reminder of the advanced capabilities humanity possessed. "We cannot trust them," Lieutenant Kara insisted, her forearms gesturing emphatically. "They have hidden from us for centuries. They possess technology we banned for good reasons. Now they conveniently offer help during a crisis that makes us desperate. This could be manipulation. Or it could be genuine," Ambassador Gyron countered, his harmonics resonating with urgent concern. "The Pelion sector does not care about our political debates. Right now, 14 billion beings face death, and we have no solution. If humanity can help, refusing them condemns those billions to satisfy our pride or our fear. Dr. Solis drifted to the central holographic display, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. I have reviewed their technical proposals. The mathematics are sound, though they utilize principles I barely comprehend. They claim they can create gravitational lenses to stabilize the stellar cascades, essentially using controlled space-time distortions to prevent the chain reaction from spreading. If successful, it would save not just the populations but the star systems themselves. Scholar Drevin's mechanical form rotated to face Thalis directly. Commander, you must decide. The Assembly Council has authorized you to act as their representative in this matter. They cannot convene quickly enough to debate this formally. The choice falls to you. Thalis felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on his crystalline structure. He had explored distant stars, encountered strange civilizations, witnessed wonders that most beings could never imagine. But never had he held such responsibility in his hands. His decision would either save billions or potentially expose the entire assembly to a threat they could not counter. Bring Director Webb here, Thalis ordered. If we are going to trust humanity with this crisis, I need to look him in the eyes and understand what we are agreeing to. Marcus Webb arrived within minutes, accompanied only by Arthur's holographic form. The human director's expression was grave as he entered the conference chamber, reading the tension in the room immediately. Commander Thalis, Webb began without preamble, I understand your hesitation. You barely know us, and what you do know suggests we possess dangerous capabilities. But let me be absolutely clear about what we are offering and what we are asking in return. He activated his own display, showing detailed schematics of the Pelion sector and the spreading stellar cascade. The destabilization began 18 hours ago, when a neutron star in the Pelion system underwent an unexpected collapse. The gravitational shockwaves are propagating through subspace, affecting neighboring stars in ways that normal physics does not account for. This is not a natural phenomenon. The chamber went silent. Dr. Solis spoke first, his voice synthesized but carrying clear alarm. You are suggesting this catastrophe was engineered? By whom? For what purpose? We do not know, Arthur replied, his holographic form displaying equations and data streams. But the mathematical signature of the cascade effect matches theoretical weapons research that the architects documented in their final years. Someone appears to have weaponized stellar physics, creating a doomsday device that can destroy multiple star systems in a chain reaction. General Chen's voice came through a communication link, adding his perspective from Gateway Station. This changes everything. If this is a weapon, then stopping it is not just about saving lives now. It is about preventing whoever deployed it from using it again. The entire galaxy is at risk. Thalis felt his structure shift through a spectrum of colors as he processed this information. You believe someone deliberately triggered this cascade? The probability is above 87%, Arthur confirmed. Natural stellar collapses do not propagate through subspace with such precision. Someone studied architect weapon research and successfully implemented it. The question is whether they did so intentionally, or if this was an experiment that went catastrophically wrong. Webb leaned forward, his human intensity fully focused on Thalis. Here is what we propose. We deploy 3 of our advanced vessels, equipped with gravitational manipulation technology. They will create a containment field around the cascade zone, essentially building walls of distorted space-time that prevent the destabilization from spreading further. This will not reverse the damage already done, but it will stop the cascade from destroying more systems. And what do you ask in return? Ambassador Gyron inquired, his harmonics carrying justified suspicion. Nothing, Webb replied simply. We ask for nothing except the opportunity to prove that humanity can be trusted. If we succeed, we hope the Assembly will consider allowing us to join your civilization as partners. If we fail, the galaxy loses nothing except 3 human ships and their crews. The cascade will continue regardless. Lieutenant Kara's skepticism remained clear. You would risk your advanced vessels and crews without guarantee of reward? Forgive me, Director Webb, but that seems either foolishly altruistic or calculated manipulation. It is neither, Webb responded calmly. It is desperation of a different kind. We have lived in isolation for 784 years, always knowing that discovery might mean our destruction. We watched your civilizations from afar, studied your cultures, and yes, we judged whether modern assembly species had evolved beyond their ancestors' fear. This crisis offers us a chance to demonstrate our value, to prove that architect technology in responsible hands can benefit the galaxy rather than threaten it. We are gambling everything on the hope that saving billions of lives will earn us a place in galactic society. Thalis studied the human director carefully. Webb's expression showed no deception that he could detect, though reading alien body language was always uncertain. More importantly, the director's logic was sound. If humanity wanted conquest, they possessed the capability to attack. If they wanted to remain hidden, they could simply ignore the crisis. Offering help served no strategic purpose unless their stated intentions were genuine. There is another consideration, Scholar Drevin observed. If this cascade was indeed caused by someone weaponizing architect research, humanity may be the only civilization capable of countering it. Refusing their help now could mean facing similar weapons in the future, with no defense. Dr. Solis added his analysis. I have modeled their proposed solution using our best physics simulators. The approach is unconventional but theoretically sound. The gravitational lenses they describe would create stable barriers that prevent subspace propagation. Success probability ranges from 64% to 81%, depending on variables we cannot currently measure. Failure would simply mean the cascade continues as it already is. There is no scenario in which their intervention makes the situation worse. Thalis made his decision. Director Webb, the Galactic Assembly accepts your offer of assistance. Deploy your vessels to the Pelion sector. We will provide you with complete sensor data and full cooperation from any assembly ships in the region. If you succeed in stopping the cascade, we will convene the full Assembly Council to discuss humanity's formal relationship with our civilization. Webb nodded solemnly. Thank you, Commander. We will not fail you. Arthur, begin the deployment sequence. Route all coordination through Commander Thalis's ship to maintain transparency. The holographic AI bowed slightly. Acknowledged, Director. The Stellar Intervention Fleet is launching now. Estimated arrival at Pelion Sector in 8 hours using our fastest drives. All telemetry and sensor data will be shared with assembly vessels in real time. The next 8 hours passed with agonizing slowness. Thalis and his delegation monitored the human fleet's progress, watching 3 vessels move through space at velocities that should have been impossible. Their drives did not work like assembly fusion systems, or even the experimental quantum drives that some species had developed. Instead, they seemed to fold space around themselves, moving through compressed distances in ways that bypassed normal limitations. Dr. Solis provided running commentary as he studied the telemetry data. Fascinating. They are not actually moving faster than light in the traditional sense. They are contracting the space ahead of them and expanding it behind them. The ship effectively remains stationary, while the universe moves around it. The energy requirements should be enormous, yet their power signatures remain stable. They have truly mastered architect technology. When the human fleet arrived at the Pelion sector, the scope of the catastrophe became fully visible. 7 star systems had already been consumed by the cascade. Their stars had collapsed into neutron remnants or black holes, their planets sterilized by gravitational tides and radiation. Another 16 systems showed signs of destabilization, their stars flickering with unnatural energies as the cascade effect propagated through subspace connections. Beginning containment procedure, announced Captain Sarah Kim, commander of the human vessel Stellar Anchor. Her voice transmitted clearly despite the distance. We are deploying gravitational lenses in triangular formation around the cascade zone. This will take approximately 4 hours to complete. All assembly ships should maintain minimum safe distance of 20 light-years. Thalis watched as the 3 human vessels moved into position, forming points of an enormous triangle that encompassed the entire affected region. At each point, they began generating gravitational anomalies that registered on every sensor as impossible concentrations of mass energy. They are creating artificial gravity wells, Dr. Solis breathed in awe, each one equivalent to a small black hole, but somehow contained and controlled. The precision required is beyond anything we have achieved. The gravitational lenses began to warp space itself, creating visible distortions in the starlight. From Thalis's perspective, the affected region seemed to shift and blur as if reality itself was becoming flexible. The three human ships maintained their positions despite gravitational forces that should have torn them apart, their advanced technology allowing them to survive conditions that would destroy any assembly vessel. Hours passed as the containment field slowly took shape. The human crews worked with mechanical precision, adjusting power outputs and field harmonics to create a stable barrier. Arthur provided continuous updates, his voice calm despite the enormous stakes. Containment field at 45% strength. Cascade propagation rate beginning to slow. Adjusting lens configuration to account for subspace resonance. Field now at 67% strength. Cascade propagation has stopped in 8 systems. Stabilization protocols engaging. Throughout the operation, Thalis monitored communications from the Pelion sector. Billions of beings watched their skies, seeing their suns flicker with unnatural light, knowing that death approached with astronomical inevitability. Assembly evacuation fleets worked desperately to save whom they could. But everyone knew they could not move billions in the time remaining. Then, after 6 hours of continuous operation, Captain Kim's voice carried new tone. Containment field has reached 100% strength and is holding stable. Cascade propagation has completely stopped, beginning stellar stabilization sequence. This will take another 2 hours to complete. The bridge of the Vigilant Observer erupted in cautious celebration. Lieutenant Kara's forearms moved in gestures of relief, while Ambassador Gyron's harmonics rang with hopeful tones. But Thalis remained focused on the data streaming from the human vessels, watching as they began the delicate process of stabilizing stars that had been pushed to the edge of collapse. The stabilization procedure proved even more remarkable than the containment. Each human ship focused its gravitational manipulation technology on destabilized stars, creating carefully controlled fields that dampened the dangerous oscillations and restored normal stellar behavior. It was like watching someone calm a raging storm through pure force of will, except the storms were nuclear furnaces millions of kilometers across. Stellar stabilization successful in Pelion 3, Captain Kim reported. Moving to Pelion 7. Local populations report their sun has returned to normal appearance, radiation levels dropping to safe parameters. One by one, the threatened star systems were pulled back from the brink of destruction. The cascade effect that had promised to consume 47 systems was stopped at 7. Billions of beings who had faced certain death found themselves watching their suns burn steadily once more, their world spared from annihilation. When the final system was stabilized, Captain Kim's voice carried exhaustion but satisfaction. All stellar bodies in the affected region have been stabilized. Cascade effect has been completely neutralized, beginning systematic shutdown of containment field. The crisis is over. Thalis felt his crystalline structure resonate with a frequency that his species associated with profound relief. They had gambled on trusting humanity, and humanity had proven worthy of that trust. Billions of lives had been saved because someone had been willing to look beyond fear and historical prejudice. Director Webb, Thalis transmitted to Gateway Station, on behalf of the Galactic Assembly, I offer our deepest gratitude. You have saved billions of beings today. Your actions will not be forgotten. Webb's face appeared on the communication screen, and Thalis noticed the human looked older than he had 14 hours ago, as if the stress had aged him physically. We only did what anyone should do when faced with such catastrophe, Commander. But I hope this demonstrates that architect technology, used wisely, can serve rather than threaten galactic civilization. It demonstrates much more than that, Ambassador Gyron added, his harmonics carrying newfound respect. It shows that humanity has the capability and the character to be valuable partners in the Assembly. I will personally advocate for your admission when the Council convenes. Dr. Solis interrupted with urgent news. Commander, our sensors have detected something. During the stabilization process, one of the human vessels conducted detailed scans of the original collapse site. They found evidence of a device, something artificial that triggered the cascade. Webb's expression hardened. Arthur, share the data with Commander Thalis's team. The holographic AI appeared, displaying images of wreckage retrieved from the Pelion system's collapsed star. We found this embedded in the neutron star's core. It is a quantum resonator designed to trigger stellar collapse through harmonic amplification. The design matches architect weapon research, but the construction is recent, within the last decade based on material analysis. Thalis felt cold dread settle over him. Someone built this deliberately. Someone studied architect weapons research and deployed it against inhabited systems. We believe it was a test, General Chen's voice added grimly. A proof of concept. If it had succeeded completely, cascading through all 47 systems as designed, it would have demonstrated that entire sectors could be destroyed with a single weapon. The strategic implications are catastrophic. Scholar Drevin's mechanical form processed this information with visible distress. But who would do such a thing? Which civilization would risk triggering such devastation? That is what we need to discover, Webb replied. The Assembly faces a threat unlike anything in recorded history. Someone possesses architect weapon technology and has proven willing to use it. Billions of beings survive today, but next time we might not be so fortunate. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly Council was the largest gathering in the organization's history. Every member species sent representatives, and many sent their highest leaders. The Great Sphere Station swelled with beings who wanted to witness this historic moment firsthand. Thalis stood at the central podium, his crystalline body reflecting light from 634 different biological systems. Behind him, holographic displays showed footage of the Pelion sector crisis, the human intervention, and the recovered weapon that had nearly destroyed billions of lives. Members of the Assembly, Thalis began, his voice transmitted in hundreds of languages simultaneously, we face a choice that will define our civilization for generations to come. We have discovered a species that possesses technology we banned, capabilities we feared, knowledge we tried to erase from history. And when tested, this species used that forbidden technology to save 14 billion of our citizens from certain death. Elder Morvath, who had been skeptical from the beginning, spoke with grudging respect. Commander Thalis is correct. Humanity has proven their good intentions through actions rather than words. But intentions can change. Technology that saves today can destroy tomorrow. How do we ensure that future generations of humans maintain the same principles? Director Webb, attending the session via holographic projection from Gateway Station, answered directly. You cannot ensure it, Elder Morvath, any more than you can ensure that future assembly species will remain peaceful. What we can offer is transparency, cooperation, and mutual accountability. Allow us to join the Assembly as full members. Let us share our knowledge while learning from your collective wisdom. Create frameworks where our technology is monitored and our society is integrated with yours, so that our fate becomes intertwined with galactic civilization rather than separate from it. Ambassador Gyron added his support. The Pelion crisis revealed another truth. Someone has weaponized architect research, and they have proven willing to use it against inhabited worlds. The Assembly cannot counter such weapons with our current technology. We need humanity's expertise, their understanding of architect principles, if we are to defend against future attacks. Scholar Drevin presented a comprehensive proposal that had been developed over the previous days. I suggest a new framework. Humanity joins the Assembly as provisional members for a period of 50 years. During this time, they will share their technology gradually, allowing us to study and understand architect principles. In return, we will integrate human settlements into the Assembly economic and cultural networks. Joint research stations will be established where human and Assembly scientists work together. Most importantly, we will create a combined task force to investigate who deployed the Stellar Cascade weapon and prevent future attacks. The debate continued for 3 full days. Some delegates remained fearful, arguing that humanity represented too great a risk, regardless of their actions in the Pelion sector. Others countered that refusing humanity's partnership would be both morally wrong and strategically foolish. The recovered weapon proved to be the deciding factor. Every species recognized that the galaxy faced a new threat, one that required new capabilities to counter. Finally, the Arbiter called for a vote. The chamber fell silent as each delegate registered their decision. Thalis watched the numbers accumulate, seeing the future of galactic civilization hang in the balance. The result was decisive. 521 species voted in favor of admitting humanity as provisional members. 89 voted against, 24 abstained. The motion passed with clear majority support. The Arbiter's ancient voice resonated through the chamber. Let it be recorded that on this day humanity has been welcomed into the Galactic Assembly. May this decision bring wisdom, prosperity, and security to all civilizations. Commander Thalis, you are hereby appointed as the first ambassador to humanity. Director Webb, you are appointed as humanity's ambassador to the Assembly. Together, you will guide this new partnership through its crucial early years. Webb's holographic form bowed respectfully. The human race thanks the Assembly for this opportunity. We pledge to honor this trust with our actions and our dedication to shared galactic welfare. Together, we will face whatever threats emerge and build a future worthy of all our civilizations. The session concluded with ceremonial exchanges, but Thalis found himself approached by Dr. Solis as delegates began departing. The gaseous scientist's form swirled with agitated curiosity. Commander, there is something about the weapon data that troubles me. The quantum resonator's design shows sophistication that suggests whoever built it understood architect technology very well, perhaps as well as humanity does. But if they studied the same ruins, the same research, why use it to create weapons rather than tools for exploration or development? Thalis had wondered the same thing. Perhaps they studied different ruins, ones where the architect's weapons research was more prominent, or perhaps they simply made different choices about how to apply that knowledge. There is another possibility, Arthur's voice interjected as the AI's holographic form appeared beside them. The architects were destroyed because the ancient assembly feared their capabilities. But what if some architects survived? What if descendants of their civilization still exist somewhere, watching and waiting? The weapon could be a message, a warning that they have not forgotten what was done to them. The implications sent ripples of alarm through Thalis's crystalline structure. If surviving architects exist, and they blame the assembly for genocide, then the Pelion attack might be the beginning of a war of revenge. Or it could be an assembly member species, Dr. Solis suggested darkly. Someone who discovered architect ruins independently and chose to keep them secret while developing weapons. The attack could be intended to destabilize the assembly from within. These are questions we must answer, Thalis said firmly. The Joint Task Force will investigate thoroughly. We will discover who deployed the weapon and why. And we will ensure they cannot use it again. 6 months later, Gateway Station had been expanded significantly, now serving as the primary diplomatic and research hub connecting humanity with the Assembly. Ships from 200 different species visited regularly, exchanging knowledge and building relationships. Human settlements throughout the former Null Zone buzzed with activity as they integrated into galactic trade networks and cultural exchanges. Thalis maintained his office aboard the station, enjoying the impossible architecture that still fascinated him. From his workspace, he could see human children playing with young beings from a dozen other species, all learning together in schools that taught both assembly history and human perspectives. Director Webb visited regularly, and over time they had developed genuine friendship, despite their different origins. The human director sat in Thalis's office now, reviewing reports from the Joint Investigation Task Force. Still no definitive answers about who deployed the weapon, Webb said with frustration. We have traced the materials to 3 possible manufacturing sites, all in remote regions. The design suggests someone with access to extensive architect research, but we have found no evidence of surviving architect populations. The investigation continues, Thalis replied. We have made progress. We now know that at least 5 other assembly species discovered minor architect ruins in their territories over the centuries, but kept them classified. The Council has ordered full disclosure of all such discoveries. That transparency will help prevent future secret weapons development. Webb nodded thoughtfully. Arthur has been coordinating with assembly AIs that some species developed in secret, despite the official ban. Apparently, we were not the only ones who questioned whether the synthetic wars justified permanent prohibition. The collaboration between artificial intelligences across multiple civilizations has been remarkably productive. Through the viewport, Thalis could see a human vessel docking with an assembly transport, crews from both working together seamlessly. 6 months ago, such a sight would have been unimaginable. Now it was routine. Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice? Webb asked quietly. Opening up to the assembly, ending our isolation, we gave up our security for the promise of partnership. Every significant choice involves risk, Thalis responded. But I believe you made the right decision. The galaxy is better with humanity as part of it. And humanity is better for being connected to galactic civilization rather than isolated at the edge of the map. The edge of the map, Webb repeated with a slight smile. We are not at the edge anymore, are we? We are part of the map now, integrated into something larger than ourselves. An alert chimed on Thalis's communication console. Arthur's holographic form appeared with urgent news. Ambassador Thalis, Director Webb, we have received a transmission from deep space beyond any charted regions. The signal is using architect communication protocols. Someone wants to talk. Webb and Thalis exchanged glances, both understanding the implications immediately. Somewhere in the vast darkness beyond known space, someone who understood architect technology had been watching the recent events. And now they wanted to make contact. Assemble the council, Thalis ordered, and prepare first contact protocols. It seems the galaxy has more surprises for us. Webb stood, his expression mixing excitement with caution. Whatever we find out there, we will face it together. The assembly and humanity, partners in exploration and discovery. That is what we fought for. That is what we will defend. As they left Thalis's office to begin preparations for this new mystery, the commander reflected on how much had changed in less than a year. The galaxy that had seemed so well understood, so mapped and categorized, had revealed itself to be far more complex and mysterious than anyone had imagined. Humanity had emerged from hiding at the edge of the galactic map. The assembly had confronted uncomfortable truths about its own history. Together, they had faced catastrophe and survived. Now they would face whatever lay beyond the edges of known space, not as separate civilizations, but as partners united by shared purpose and mutual respect. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, and among them, ancient secrets waited to be discovered. The galaxy had grown larger and more wondrous, and somewhere in that vastness, the next chapter of galactic civilization was about to begin. But that, as they say, is another story. Comment for next story.